guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Service Without Excuses podcast. Glad to be with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. It is the 14th of April. We are in the midst of the coronavirus epidemic that's going on right now across the country. And, it's certainly been a challenging month or so, and we're still in for some challenging times, but it looks like we're at the tail end of it. And we're starting to see an upswing right now, an upswing in a good way, not an upswing in a bad way, where we're having more sickness and fatality. Seems like we're starting to flatten out, which is a good thing, and hopefully we can get the economy back in order. Again, we're talking um, April 14th, 2020. That's the time we're in right now. That's what's going on. And the subject I'm going to talk to in episode number 14 of the Service Without Excuses podcast today is very, very relative to what's going on right now when it comes to the world. What is the most important parts of people's buying decisions? Well, number one, they're holding off for the most part on many buying decisions because the products are not there. Companies like Amazon and Walgreens and Walmart are really capturing the market share because they're able to ship as much as they are, and they're doing very well. In fact, they hired, I believe Amazon was hiring 100,000 jobs, and now wants to add another 20 to 30,000 or more jobs in addition to that, just because they're trying to keep up with what's going on in their warehouses and things like that. So it's definitely become if you're an online retailer, this shows you how strong things are, and I think it's only going to boost their marketplace just because of what's happened. But I still like buying local. I still go around the store and around the area if I can get it. Go in my mask and my gloves and some safety gear, whatever I need to do in order to keep me and my family safe. So it's very, very important that we take those precautions right now as we're going on. But the point of the podcast today is what's more important, price or service, what they really buy. We talk about the chicken and the egg in the previous podcast, but this is the question: when it becomes more common now than ever, what's more important, buying a service or buying the product? What's the real value there? Is it more important? Do people base their decisions more on price, or do they place their decisions more on service? And what's more important? Price is tangible. It's not a long term solution, it's a short term solution. Everybody can adjust their price. And they always say you could take your price and drop your price, but try to bring it back up once you've already lowered it and taught your marketplace and your market database to buy based on price versus basing on quality. So we know that a product or service does not have value, or it's a product or service um, has an asset when it's a product itself, versus what a service, a commodity is. We've talked about that in the previous podcast. And the ability to sustain long term revenue, however, is based on the combination of, believe it or not, both. Now, price is always going to be important. Price is always going to be relative to any conversation. There is no question that price is always an issue when it comes to buying something. There's a very few people in the marketplace. They'll say, whatever it is, it is. I don't care. We probably all could count on one hand. We've had a customer or client say to us, I don't care. They always say, I trust you, but I could tell you if the price is outrageous, they're not going to trust you anymore. They're going to believe that they had a good relationship with you, and that's out the door. So price is always going to be a variable. When people say price is not a variable, they're living in a dream world. It is a variable. However, if you can match what's referred to as value, which is meeting service and price all in one, you can win. There's no question about that. And you can win heavily in today's market because people are going to come put a commodity on that. What's going to happen right now when this market comes back up and we start slingshotting, like I talked about before in the previous podcast, is people are going to be ready to buy, I believe, in droves, especially the service businesses, a lot of which got affected very badly, mostly with things beyond our control. And it wasn't even just everybody said, well, everybody's quarantined in their house. They did this. They couldn't go out, so they didn't have us into the house to do work or into their businesses to do work because they didn't go anywhere. That's not necessarily entirely true. A lot of the the governing bodies, and all the way up to the president of the United States, to your governors, to your local law enforcement, have enforced a lot of quarantines. Here in New Jersey, we have a quarantine. New Jersey and New York are the epicenter of the worst destruction of this terrible illness of COVID-19. Because of that, we have the most restrictions, the most Safety, the most likelihood that somebody's going to get it, or probably most of us probably already have had a bout of it one way or the other at some point in time, and everybody's body reacts differently to it. And of course, the amount of impact of the virus itself that gets into the body affects it as well. But when we come out of this slingshot, and the economy starts opening up as the president's talking about, and the market starts opening up, there's not going to be enough service providers, in my opinion, to do it. Now, we all know during every epidemic, every downtime, every tragedy, every disaster, we always have a pop up of new companies that quote unquote are experts in the field, and they see a market. Well, they come and go. They get out there. Unfortunately, they cause more destruction than most of them are worth. So it's not always a positive thing when it comes to what they do. But they come in, they're temporary. They realize they can't do this. They're like viruses themselves. Unfortunately, they're like their own little parasitic community where they thrive off of whatever they can take and not give a value or not give service. And unfortunately, that affects everybody. But most of the time, they go away. They just get sought out, especially when the market opens up and people realize that the snake oil they were sold is not true. So they're going to look for qualified service providers. They're going to look for quality service providers. They're going to look for quality service providers they can trust to come into their homes and businesses to do work, especially in the cleaning and restoration industry, which is a lot of what my listeners are. They're in the service based cleaning industries, whether that's commercial cleaning companies, residential cleaning companies, carpet cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, disaster restoration cleaning companies. Most of the people I work with are that type of a business. We do also in our consulting practice work with roofing contractors and general contractors and things like that too as well. But I'll just stick to the cleaning and restoration side of it right now. Quality providers that can do the job right are going to be needed in a big way, especially in the cleaning industry, because people are now cleaning more for, as my colleague Craig Jasper rather, says people are going to be cleaning for health. Bill Yaden, same thing, cleaning for health. And that book was put out a long time ago by Dr. Michael Berry. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. I remember reading that book in the 90s, so it's been around for a very long time. And people back then were going to start cleaning for the health aspect, not just the materialistic or the physical or the presence, the look of whatever they're seeing. Not just cleaning because it looks dirty; they're cleaning because they don't want that dirt to affect their livelihood in the house, their children, their pets. More often than not, the pets over the people, but it's a very important aspect to many people's lives. So people, the only thing that's really come out of this that's been a remote positive has been people are going to they're going to start cleaning for other reasons. They're going to start doing work for other reasons. They're going to want providers, service providers that they can trust, that they can rely on to do the job right, to understand that their concerns, understand where they want to go, what the type of work that they're going to have done. So if you're a quality service provider and you're willing to keep up with the standards and do the jobs right, then you probably will profit very, very well from this at the end of the day, because people are cleaning now for a completely different reason. And I know people certain to a certain extent clean for health in the past, but I can tell you that percentage was probably in the single digits, maybe as high as 9 to 10%. Most did not. They cleaned because of the appearance they were looking at. They weren't doing it the other way. So if we can bring that up another even 10% across the board, that creates a tremendous amount of opportunities for service providers in the cleaning and restoration industry alone, not to mention other industries. Um, so we're going back to what is the more important aspect. Now, we do some services outside a pressure washing type process. We don't do them too often. We only really do them for the people that are our own customer base. There are certain levels of it we don't do when it's too big of a job. We don't do it, but we got into it almost by accident, where customers were asking us to do the work. Of course, they were asking us to power wash their house. We don't do that. We have a company we refer. Actually have a few people we can refer for that, because that becomes very in demand very quickly. Um, so we know that in the springtime we're going to get a level of certain calls, and I'm going to get referring partners that refer us work too as well. More to that aspect of it this time of the year. Now that can be a pretty expensive ticket. That can be a much more expensive ticket than town and ground. Of course, it's a much bigger job. Has to be done in three parts, and not necessarily in 3 different days. So it takes a lot of time, and then you've got to work with challenges like the weather, and so forth and so on. And that becomes an issue, no question about it. But we offer those sides, those services. What we do to pre-qualify people is kind of say, "Hey, do you happen to have an idea of how big of an area you have?" And then we start asking some questions: what they have, when's the last time they had it treated, do they know the type of products that might have been used in the past? A lot of people don't, but a lot of people actually do know what they're doing. And then we give them a rough idea over the phone. If that idea is okay with them to continue to come out and look at it, then we come out and take a look at it. We have a much more pre-qualified clientele at that point because they already understand that the price is there. This is what it costs for us to do the job right, not to do the job wrong. We just won't do it. Um, so they know that this is what they're kind of basing their decision on. It's going to be within this range. If they have, and I always say, if you have 600 square feet, this is the price for this. If you have 1,000 square feet, this approximately be the price to do the entire process, all three parts. Or if you decide you only want to do one or all three, that's fine too as well. We could certainly break that down and give you, a breakdown and a price reduction based on the lesser of services versus the greater of services. There's only one you have to do within that, no questions asked. They base their decision on price to a certain extent because a higher ticket. However, they also want the job done right. So I do find that as long as we've pre-qualified people over the phone and said, if you have this, this is the price range you're looking at. Is that acceptable? We'll come out and do an exact measurement. We'll do an exact scope of the job. Talk to you, whether it's remotely via FaceTime, Skype, on the phone, whatever is preferred to them. We'll explain in detail, everything we have to do in order to get that up and to give them the job that they really need to have done, in our opinion. And also to meet the expectations they're looking for. They want certain products that are a better grade than they cost a little bit more. Um, so we can pre-qualify them by saying if you have X amount of square footage, and you have this, and you want to do these three different steps all consecutively. This is the cost you'd be looking at to have this particular service done. And we seem to acquire a lot more clients doing the job versus just saying, "Okay, where you at? What do you want to have done? What do you do? What's the history onto it?" All the generic questions that you would just ask somebody. Same thing with tile and grout. We do an awful lot of tile and grout cleaning our business. It's our fastest growing segment, just because I think it's something we do a bit better than other companies. We go a step above. We use a lot more equipment, a lot more knowledge, better products, better results because of it. So we have a major upswing when it comes to tile and grout cleaning and tile and grout sealing. And that being said, we try to pre-qualify people over the phone because they want to get a price. Now, there's two ways in the cleaning business you can give a price, and this is the chicken or the egg again too as well. Some cleaning companies say, "I won't give a price over the phone. I'll come out and take a look at it for you. If you like the price, I can either give you an estimate or do the work of that day," which is probably a more profitable for a smaller company necessarily, not necessarily a larger company, but a smaller mom and pop company like myself that's, a couple people, couple trucks, nothing massive. You can probably do okay with that. When you get into multiple employees, multiple trucks, and even what we do is we try to give people pricing structure over the phone, because a lot of people today are preconditioned to the aspect that it's going to be very expensive. You have to come out there and I can't give you a price over the phone. So they immediately go to the person that can give them the answers they're looking for. Tile and grout, carpet cleaning, rug cleaning. If somebody's a commercial cleaning company, certainly they have to look at the job, but they can get an idea of what they're kind of looking at ahead of time. I need, 15,000 square feet clean, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to come out and actually ideal it. And sometimes people want an idea, just a vague idea, not holding them to it over the phone, and our business is no different. So we decided that we do give a ballpark on pricing, whether it's carpet cleaning or it's tile and grout cleaning. We give a ballpark, and then we come out there, we do finalize it. So it's a little bit of both. We quite often go out there and in tile and grout, most people they tell us more than what they really have. They tell us it's a bigger area than what they have. So we let them know that over the phone. It now breaks down some objection barriers. If I tell them the cost per square foot to clean the tile and grout, and then they start doing math in their head and go, "Oh my God, this is going to be expensive." It might not be because it can be less. An example: we just did a job the other day where a person said, "I have 800 square feet in his house." He happened to have 470 square feet. In fact, he wasn't even at 470; he was like at 440. And then he added on an additional area up on his upstairs floor bathroom. So he thought he had 800 square feet. Turns out he had a little more than half that. Obviously, he was pretty happy because the price was going to be nowhere near what it would have been at 800 square feet. So usually people overestimate it. And what they do is they measure out the whole square footage of the house. They say, on this floor, I have this much tile and ground, but I also have this. And if I deduct this, this is what I should have left. That is not a great equation to what you actually have. So that's why we come out there and take a look at it and measure the actual cleanable square footage, not the room size itself. Because we're charging for areas we're not actually cleaning. And we're not in the business of taking one extra penny from somebody for an area we didn't actually do any work for. And I suggest you stay the same. Don't charge for things you didn't do. But it happens a lot. And people will give the price over the phone and get in there and not adjust the price. And somebody says 800 square feet, and that person says, "Okay, fine, I'm going to charge you, let's say for practical numbers, 850 to clean the area." You might have lost the job when the job might only have been $500, and you already priced yourself out before you got in the door. So be fair, let them know most people are above it and beyond it, but sometimes it is that area, sometimes it even can be bigger, but the ratios are much higher. And be honest with people and say this is what it is, and if they want to measure it up front, that's fine. So that's what we do. Now, if we told everybody we'll come out, don't worry about it, and just give them price in person, 9 to 10 times, nah, I shouldn't even say that, 7 out of 10 times they're going to say no. 3% of the time, they're going to say yes. Now, some would say it's a good ratio. It's not a good ratio when you have techs. When you have a crew that goes out there, they don't give a price, and they come out there and just give them the price on point. They're in sticker shock. Now, two things can happen with sticker shock. Some people just do it because they don't think twice about it. They think they're already here. I feel under pressure. I got to do it now. And then they have what's referred to as buyer's remorse afterwards. And there's nothing worse than buyer's remorse. There's two responses you can have to buyer's remorse, and this is all relative to this. So this is why I'm getting into this particular part of it itself. Is number one problem with buyer's remorse is, of course, they're not happy. They don't want to pay the bill. They don't want to pay for things that they didn't realize was going to be that expensive. Husband, wife got home, spouse, significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it happens to be, and goes, "What the hell are you talking about? You just spent what?" Because it's sticker shock, and now there's buyer's remorse behind it. The second is buyer's remorse is can be actually the more painful one. Just say they don't confront you, and then they go online and say, he did a nice job, he or she did a great job, but the price was much higher than I anticipated, and I'm not happy with the fact that they came in here, and that can be a lot of bad press. And people say there's no such thing. There's plenty of bad things about bad press. So it's never good to have bad reviews, especially when you've got a company where you work very hard to give the best service, the best quality product for the best price you can. And you work very hard to maintain incredible reviews. And then it just gets crushed by one person that's going to give you 1 star, 2 stars, not because you did a poor job, but maybe because the communication skills weren't that great and the expectations were different. So then they start looking at all the things that didn't come out perfectly, and then you come back, and it can be a real nightmare situation. So my suggestion to you, any service provider in the cleaning restoration industry, any industry, when it comes to going out there and performing a service in front of somebody, whether you're working on a roof, doing repairs in a house, is make sure you give an idea over the phone of what it is and just say, if you can tell me a little bit more, I can give you kind of an idea. Certainly, I can't give you a complete quote, but I can maybe ballpark some numbers to you. And if that seems logistically good to you, then we can come out and finalize it. Whether we finalize it by just doing an estimate or finalize it by doing an estimate and the job the same day, we still have a much more qualified person because we took the extra steps to do it. Some people are very afraid, and I know I have one person in particular I know, very, very good, very successful businessman, but he is scared to death to ever give a price to a person over the phone because he thinks he's going to lose him. He's too inconfident in giving pricing. Now he has a whole staff, and the staff is fine with it, but he's terrible at it because he's too afraid that they're going to say no and object to it versus giving somebody a ballpark. And we always tell people, we always tell customers, and you should too as well, this is what you can expect. This is the work we're going to do. This is the cost associated with it. We are not like everybody else. We are not like other companies that tell you this is what it's going to be. It's the same workmanship. You cannot provide that. This business, New Jersey's best service, New Jersey's best carpet and tile cleaning, I would ideally like to take the entire state of New Jersey and possibly beyond, but at least the entire state of New Jersey before I'm done with this. I want to grow this company into a couple different locations, at least another one, possibly a third at some point in time. There's only one way I'm going to do that, and that's doing it right, giving people the best value they can for their investment. Value is where price and service meet. Okay. Value is where price and service meet. That's what people associate as value. Okay. You don't know what they're going to spend. I've been in properties and given prices to customers and clients where I would not personally want to pay somebody to do that. Of course, I'm jaded, I'm on one side of it, but I would never think that they would pay that for that issue because it's what I do. It doesn't minimize what we do. It's hard work, it's physical work, it's detailed work, it's very important work. But you wouldn't think off the top of your head that this is something that you might do, but they will spend it. So, and sometimes you're going to get the opposite. You're going to have people that are just, unfortunately, I don't know other way to say it, just cheap. They don't want to spend anything. They see no value in it. Again, word value, and they're basing their decisions on price. And that's not really your customer clientele. So you have to give them a fair price based on the same pricing structure you would do for a like job. So if you're doing a carpet cleaning job and you're pricing by the square footage itself, and you're doing that, um, you want to know if a carpet is mildly soiled or heavily soiled. Why? Because you're going to charge a little bit more for the heavily soiled carpet than the mildly soiled carpet. If you're charging by the job and by the square footage and things like that, you're going to have a different price for dirtier carpet. Not if you're a company like myself that does room pricing, it's kind of a crapshoot. We know that most jobs are not going to be terribly bad. We know that 10% or so are going to be the horror shows, and we have to absorb that cost into everything else we do in order to make balance. But we do room pricing or package room pricing. Personally, that's what works for us because it's very simple, it's very easy, and it's the best way I can scale and grow the business by being upfront with that pricing structure wise. And I always tell our customers, do not think it's one size fits all. When you go to the store and you buy shoes, you know that you're probably going to get a little better shoe if you spend a little bit of money, and you're going to get a much cheaper shoe that's going to fall apart very quickly. So you get what you pay for. Do you want to spend it once or do you want to spend it twice? And quite often we can project that impression to customers ahead of time. Do we lose some? We do. And we never had them in the first place. And that's how we look at it. We are a mid-range price company with a high-end service level. So that's what is our USP. We offer premium service. We give you premium level experience and service to get the best job done. Not somebody that's just been doing it for a couple weeks or a couple months or even frankly for a couple of years. Somebody's been doing it for 10 years on average. And that's what we have here. Or more. Some of myself is almost 30 years into it. So you're getting that experience and that detail quality and that old school work ethic for a moderate price, a medium price, versus a company that does the same caliber work that we do will charge probably in excess of 35 to 50 to 100% more than what we do. And we know this because we know what our competition charges by what our customers tell us. Especially if it's a first time customer, they might tell us, hey, you did 5 rooms for the same price they did my master bedroom for. My master bedroom was big, but I got a lot more value out of you for what you were doing. And for us, we made fine money on the job. We know what we did per hour. We did per square foot. We know that we're going to leave him with a better moment of truth, as Steve Toburin says. Um, you're going to win and scale your business much quicker, in my opinion, by doing that and by giving them that. But it's not easy because you're looking at what you can get out of somebody versus what you frankly should be attributing to the value of your product and service. So understand that they're both important. If I was to say personally for me, they're looking at more a better job. They're looking for a better product. They're looking for the better service than they are price. At least our clients and customers are. We have hundreds and hundreds now. We're probably in the thousand plus at just 2 years in the business. And the big reason we're growing and we have those large amount of reviews that we have is because we're doing something we feel right and we're going with the data as you hear right now, as you hear in the news, we're going with what the data tells us. Well, I'm as a businessman, I look at the data, I look at financial statements, I look at growth statements, I look at referrals, I look at the feedback of our customers, I look at the growth of our customer. Forget about right now what's going on I look at the continued growth, the attrition rate, how many people are going out versus how many people are coming in, how many customers and clients are we retaining for future services. Those are the things I looked at from the growth of a business and what the real value is in the business. The value is really in what you have, the fold that you have, the customer and client list that are already happy with you, and those are the people that realize you're there. They're not future customers and clients, which we love to have every day in and out. We do appreciate it. It's how we're going to grow and scale and give people the job they deserve and the workmanship they deserve here in New Jersey in particular. But um, they understand what we're going to do, and we have to have a price point that matches that in order to maintain value. You never want somebody to go, it was great, but boy, was it expensive. It's not a great one to return to somebody else because then the neighbor or friend they're telling it to is like, oh, they're great. Oh, but they're expensive. You're going to get that fallout. You get that no win. They were great and they were very reasonable. That's what you want. Reasonable does not equate cheap. Reasonable does not even equate mid price. Reasonable is they found a great value for what you did. They found a great midpoint between price and service, right at that triangle, so to speak. That's what they found, and that's value. And value is what a customer today buys. It's what clients today buy. They want a value on what you're doing. So it's not necessarily going to be the lowest price, it's going to be the value you deserve. If you start your company and you are a very lowball company, very cheap company, telling people you did a whole house for $100, number one, you're lying to them. You're not giving them a great quality job because you can't give them a great quality job. I don't care if you're an owner operator on a truck, with a portable carpet clean machine, which is probably more than often what you're using as a small little, $500, $1,000 top investment into something where the rest of us have 20 to 30 to 50 to $100,000 investment of the same um, process of doing something, but we've done that plus the knowledge. You're not going to be able to give them and scale your business because you're not going to be able to give them that. You're going to give them a great price, but you're not going to be able to give them a great service. I know that just from all the years of experience. And yes, cleaning chemistry has gotten a lot better. You can do a lot more, move lot more soil with less, but there's no way you can afford to keep your doors open for that. So you have to also understand that you can't charge low thinking I'll do it in volume. There are companies, large national franchises that go out there and do that and say, this is our price, this is our price, this is our price. What you don't understand is they have 10 trucks on the road doing that, and their business is driven on the back end upsells, which I am a fan of. But that's their entire business is based on what they can do, a doubling rate, so to speak. You've heard about it now, the doubling, and the with the coronavirus epidemic. But that doubling aspect is a positive doubling aspect versus the negative of the coronavirus. They're looking at if somebody spends 100, they should spend two. So that job average goes from 100 to $200, and they have 10 trucks doing that. You do the math. It's pretty simple. They can win that price war against you and crush you in the dust because they can do that. So you never want to compete on the same platform as that, thinking, well, if they charge this, I can charge this. It's stupid. It's going to hurt. And it's probably going to finish you as a business person very quickly. So you have to find out numbers you can do it and then convince your customers and clients and your future customers and clients that this is the reason you want to use our business. This is the reason you want to hire our company. You're going to find a great value for what you get. We deliver it. I have there's a famous steakhouse in New York called Spark Steakhouse. It's famous not because of its food, even though its steaks are some of the best in the world, and some of their seafood some of the best in the world, but it's famous for a mob hit that happened back in 1985. The head of the one of the families was rubbed out in front of the Spark Steakhouse. So there's pictures of it with Spark Steakhouse. Now I think that probably did more to give him business than not, although I don't think Peter Seta would ever agree, Seta, I'm sorry, would ever probably agree with that. But he knows in the back of his mind it probably helped him with the hurt, even though it was negative publicity. People now knew where he was, and he went from a small steakhouse when they started. By the time they did this, they were already pretty big, but now they're probably the biggest in New York. And he says in his commercial, he has a 30-second or a minute infomercial about what he does that you can find online that he did put out years ago. And he says, you can find old fashioned value, but you get what you pay for. You can find old fashioned value, but you'll get what you pay for. Probably the smartest goddamn statement I've ever heard a businessman say in my life was those words. You will find old fashioned real world value, but you get what you pay for. So if somebody wants, no offense to a Ponderosa or Bonanza steak, you're not a clientele of Spark Steakhouse. You're going to get a steak that you couldn't buy for probably the price you're going to buy it for at Sparks because it's that high quality, that thick of a steak, and you wouldn't be able to get access to that even if you wanted to. Maybe you could have it shipped, but if you think mail order steaks are the same steak you're going to get at Sparks or Delmonico's or Bobby Van's, any Peter Luger's here in New York, all the top end steakhouses, you're dreaming. You ain't going to get anywhere near close to that. Number one, they're too picky with the slices of meat they're going to have, and you couldn't buy it for what they buy it for. If you went to buy that steak might cost you $50. Well, you might buy it from them for $50. I mean, and they're going to do a much better job professional. So it's a no-win. You can't go out there. Now, if it's pizza, somebody could say, hey, there's an argument you can make a pizza pretty cheap if you know what you're doing and make a good pizza. That's fine. Not steak. I can make steak on my grill and buy it at Costco. I happen to like a really decent cut. My wife and I both do, and it's not the cheapest per pound. I try to get it on sale, but it's a good cut. But it's nowhere near a cut or a steak at one of these steakhouses in New York or in Texas or California, for that matter, or Florida. I mean, not even close. Okay, so you'll find old world, real world value, old world value, but you get what you pay for. Sorry. Old world value, but you get what you pay for. We know old world refers to, he's an Italian descent, real hard work ethic, real quality, real you're buying, you're getting what you're paying for, but you get what you pay for. I follow those rules in business. I felt it really is the most brilliant thing I probably ever heard a businessman say, was those words right there. Think about what is giving your customers and clients real world value, and think about what works best for you. Think about what provides value. Think about what gives people ultimately what they're looking for. And that's what you're going to roll with. That's what you're going to work with in your business. You're going to 100% of the time look at the real world value and the quality of what people are paying for. And that's where you're going to match. And that's where you're going to win. And that's where you're going to thrive. So think about this. Sorry, I was just looking over here real quick on my recorder, and think about the real world value that you put out every day and how pricing structure and how um, things like the workmanship you're doing match to create value. Where price and service and quality meet, you find value. Think about that, guys. Love to hear from you. Make sure you post underneath here and subscribe to our podcast too, as well. Of course, Service Without Excuses podcast. Great to be with you here today. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy it. And looks like the sun is coming out here. So we will all see you very, very soon. Thanks so much. Enjoy yourself. Bye.